Happy Arsenal means happy Wrighty. What's going on?
Well, what's happened is that from the start of the season, when you look at the start of the season, when the defence what they have now, none of them you didn't have Tomiyasu. Ben White played, but he weren't quite right. No Gabriel, you know.
Benjamin White.
Benjamin White, yeah. I think that Thomas Partey was missing. I remember the first game of the season. Lacazette and Aubameyang went down with an illness, and it just started pretty poorly. But he just didn't have a team in place to do what he wanted to do. And now you look at the players he has now. You know, Ramsdale is a phenomenon for Arsenal and what he's done. And I'm really pleased that it's turning out like it has for him, because when we signed him for the 30 million, people were teasing us and saying, how can you sign a goalkeeper that's gone down twice? But what I see is a goalkeeper that brings so much to the team, not just his brilliant goalkeeping at the moment, but his attitude and the fact that he is that chest beating, getting that team going, because I think there's a lot of introverted players at Arsenal. And he's somebody that, you know what I mean, he keeps Arsenal going. This was a fantastic game for Arsenal. You know, it kind of like got us going in the way that how we're trying to play out from the back. You see it now with Ben White. You're seeing what we're doing with Thomas Partey. We kind of seem to be moving on from a Granit Xhaka with Sambi Lokonga and the way we're playing. It seems to be a lot more solid with a 4-4-2. It seems to suit Saka a lot better as well. You know, and it just seems with Thomas Partey and Sambi Lokonga in there, it just feels solid. You've got Lacazette, who's now playing in a number 10 instead of maybe Martin Odegaard, and he's doing well. So you've got that kind of dynamic where he's coming in done well as well. So, you know, there's a lot of things happening what weren't happening at the start of the season, where they seem to be getting into the flow of it now. And because they're being so continuous with the same team, it seems like they're building something. No Europe, it must help.
Well, I mean, whatever about what they've done in the few months since, I think Arteta deserves real credit, because that situation could really have tailspun. I mean, the season started so badly. There was talk about kind of whether he had so many games until he was actually under pressure. And even if the board were always going to stay strong, they must have at least been considering the kind of situation. Yeah. And it was such a bad start to the season, following on from how erratic a lot of last year was. Although, wasn't there a stat actually that since Christmas last season, they've actually been one of the best performing sides in the Premier League. So you can see kind of a longer term effect.
And this is, you're right, that sort of short run of poor games at the start of the season coloured people's perceptions as to how this season might have gone. Whereas maybe if you looked at the bigger picture, the signs were pointing towards what we've seen across the last 8 games.
And given that he is a young manager, and this is his first job, unlike Gerrard actually, there was no guarantees there. So for him to kind of impose that personality and impose a structure on the team again is really impressive.
I think that when he came out with that statement, remember Miggy, where he said that was the best. I think it was after the City game, because that was a game where you really started to worry. Kels, when you watched it, you think to yourself, my gosh, these players. It wasn't even the performance was so poor that you start to question, are these players behind him? And I think after that game, when we lost 5-0. He had the break, and he came out with that statement about that has been the best 10 days of my football career. So something must have happened where and you've seen with the results after that, something's happened where those players came together, and what we saw is that those players are fighting for him. Because since then, everything seems to have changed. And then you have to throw into that as well, Kels, that he's got all of these signings, what he's made, is being involved in that. So even if there was something to do with a mutiny, the new players were strong enough and playing well enough once they did come in to kind of fight anything off. But what we are seeing is a team that are very much together.
And it helps as well, that defensive improvement really helps. It can't just be down to Aaron Ramsdale, although his numbers are fantastic. The whole performance, the whole unit, as you were saying earlier, has to be right.
Yeah, you know, and I must admit, the first 3 games, you know, I was loving life. Not so much now. No, you're right. I think the whole team harder, you know, from the front. You're looking at Aubameyang and Lacazette. They seem to be pressing a lot with a lot more intensity, which helps the whole team really. But yeah, you know, it's going back to Arteta. You know, he had a tough time after the Man City game. He looked almost finished. You know, you could see on his face he looked lost, but. You know, somewhere along the line, he's got them galvanized again, or galvanised again, and you know. But it started with 1-0 victories after that. So again, it goes back to the defence and making sure that you're tough and solid and hard to beat again. They got 1-0 victories. Started to build a bit of confidence, and we've seen them take that on. So,
but what you see as well, Leds, is with the goalkeeper, what the goalie gives us. We can bypass people, especially with Lacazette playing. You can bypass people if there is a press, and even if there is a press, you're seeing now someone like Ben White, who again we were ridiculed for paying the money for him, but that's the player that Arteta wanted, because not only can Ben White pass the ball into those areas, but now we're seeing he'll run the ball through those areas as well. So you can break lines with a centre-half that's confident enough to do that. People like Thomas Partey will break lines with what he's doing. So when you've got a goalkeeper who can do that, then you get the ball into an area where we're now able to turn, because Lacazette will then link the play, and then you can start getting Saka away, getting Emile Smith-Rowe away, and Aubameyang.
Actually, given Ramsdale's effect, it should be noted as well that was a signing that Arteta really pushed for. And it would have been easy to let that slide, given they had Leno there. Yeah. Leno had been a signing that had been kind of a symbol of the new structure from 2 years ago, post-Wenger.
Yeah.
But Arteta really pushed for Ramsdale because he saw how important he could be for what the team wants to do.
I think that they must be even more surprised with what he brings to that dressing room. I'm telling you, you could see it when he's playing. Anybody's in and around.
You see him singing along with the crowd chant.
Yeah, it was brilliant. It was brilliant. And what you do see is how the players just continually come round him, and he's a rallier. And it's something that Arsenal have needed, because people constantly talk about Arsenal when it weren't going well, is no leaders, no characters in the dressing room. They are very introverted kind of group of players, and he seems to be bringing out the best in those players. You know, I'd love the fact that, like, even with Benjamin White, when he's come out and he says, listen, I don't watch much football, I just play football. I love the fact that he's brave enough and strong enough to come out and admit that, because he can deal with what comes with that. But when you look at his performances next to Gabriel, it's very solid with the goalkeeper. It's a very good team of them three are very solid, and they're footballing centre halves into Thomas Partey, into Sambi Lokonga. You know, and now Arsenal are looking like the structure and the way the team's playing. You could see if it has to go long, they'll do that. But like if a defender has to get and run it out of play, run it into the midfield and then go from there. We saw Ben White setting up Emile Smith-Rowe's goal the other day. Yeah. So we're looking at a team now that seems a lot of confidence. The worry, Kels, is there is no Europe, and there's players that probably won't play as regularly as they would want to, because there's no football matches to put them in. That might be a worry, but as time goes by, hopefully everybody will come together, and when they get their chance, like Maitland-Niles, they'll take it. Yeah.
The one counterpoint, I suppose, is, because I do generally obviously feel we're starting to see the positive effects of Arteta, but one thing you'd see, I suppose, is maybe this has been a forgiving run, and there's maybe a little bit of fragility about it, that if they play the kind of wrong team now at the wrong time, it could come crashing down again.
Liverpool's next.
Liverpool's next. We saw with Brighton, like I mentioned, Brighton, they're so organised, they're so well coached by Graham Potter, and we saw what that done with Arsenal. What else we see with Arsenal is that they're starting games very quickly. Okay, yeah. And when they score in that time, yes, they're fine, but then there's a period in the game, what we saw in that Leicester game with Aaron Ramsdale saving Arsenal, is that Arsenal kind of like, they feel like they're retreating. And the goalkeeper kind of kept us in that game. Then we moved again and kicked on again. But that's the worry, is how we manage the game if we don't score early. And when you're coming up against a Liverpool, and like we did with Brighton were so good that those are the problems that he has to solve now. And with the Liverpool game coming up, it's a perfect barometer to see exactly where they are.
Given how much has been reported about Arsenal's young players, about Arteta's new signings, how interesting was it to hear Aubameyang talking about the conversation that he had with Arteta about the captaincy?
I think it was interesting because Arteta's obviously recognised something in the way he was playing, or maybe the way his demeanour around the training ground, to actually ask him are you OK with the captaincy? Is it weighing too heavy on you? And what was really good to hear is that he said no, he wanted the responsibility, because I think that what's happening there is that Arteta seems to me, like you're just saying there, Kels, while it was on there, is that he seems to have won him over. I don't think he ever lost him. I just think that what was happening with Aubameyang, especially in the times when we didn't have the players that I mentioned earlier, was making the team get up the pitch quicker. He had to do a lot more running in the direction. You don't want to see him running in, because we're talking about one of our oldest players. I think the other day it was him and Lacazette, and the next oldest player was 24, Maitland-Niles. So you don't want your oldest, most experienced and your best goal scorer tracking that way. So I think that was happening for quite a bit, and he wasn't happy with it. You could see he weren't happy with it. But now he's got so much creativity behind him. You're seeing him making the runs that we know he's famous for, because we can get the ball in there to him now. And I think that's what the manager maybe had to have the words with him to talk about, Kels, and just say to him, listen, I'll get it back, I'll get it right for you. But are you ready to still lead if this can happen? And he said, yeah, and it's really good to see. Just
on that as well, I mean, in terms of kind of the creativity, there was a point last season, and maybe at the start of this season, when it wasn't going so well for Arteta. And I think one of the biggest criticisms would have been basically that it looked like everything they tried to do in attack was too prescribed, like it was too structured.
Yes.
Whereas now you're actually seeing a kind of, you know,
a little bit more chaos, man. A little bit more just off the cuff.
Free, which obviously suits kind of the way Aubameyang plays as well.
And it suits the way Saka plays, suits the way Emile Smith-Rowe plays. Yeah. You need to get those players to be able to say, like, hopefully Pepe is somebody that can maybe thrive if he gets the opportunity. Because like I said, there's going to be players now who are not going to play as often as they maybe would like to. But you'd like to see someone like Pepe come in. Yeah. People are saying, yes, 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 and he's having a shot and then apologising. It's something that I kind of mentioned to him. I said, listen, you create as well. So there's times when you get into these situations, have a shot, get more shots in games. And like now he's doing it, and he's scoring goals, and we need goals from other avenues.
Did this?
Well, probably somewhere along the line, Kels, because remember, I went to school with his brother, so even just him touching me when he was a kid made Emile Smith-Rowe come out and be what he is. No, in all seriousness, it's something that he was really worried about. I want to score more goals, and he was getting into positions, but he was missing. I said, just keep getting in there, and it's just happening now.
He scored more goals already this season than he did last season.
Yeah, he's upped everything.
He must have been working on.
Yeah, he's upped everything. He's upped everything. More shots in games, getting himself in the box more, and that is where you'll score more goals.
Yeah, he's just been a fantastic player to watch, and to watch the development of him as well.
Yeah, he is, you know, and he plays with a maturity. You know, I'm not sure how old is he? No.
He's 21 now.
21, but you know, he seems so much older. You know, the way he plays the game. But yeah, tremendous player, and as Wright said, you know, scoring goals is the next part of his game to take him to the next level. You know, if he wants to be one of the best players in that position, got to score goals.
Again, that's a remarkable thing that you say. I mean, you'd almost forget he's 21 because the way he's taken on the responsibility on himself and Saka.
And the thing is, he himself said, "I want the number 10."
Yeah.
You see, now people... I remember when Dennis Bergkamp came, Paul Merson handed him the number 10. He said, yeah, you can have it, because it means so much. And for him to take it off of the fact that a legend like Dennis Bergkamp had it, that's, again, coming through the academy, that's the confidence and the drive and the determination he has, because he's taken the responsibility of that shirt. People say, wait, it's only a shirt, it's only a number. No, if you've got that shirt and you are not performing, that weighs heavy on you. But he was willing to take that responsibility, and now we're seeing him thrive with that. He's thriving.
I think it's really interesting when you talk about the confidence that he has, because when he's interviewed, he is very clearly a 21-year-old kid. Like there's a real difference between how he looks when he's on a pitch and how he looks outside of that situation.
But Kels, it's like you see players like they change when they get onto the pitch. In the way they demean it. It's because he's very shy, but then the real person, the talent comes out, and it's on the pitch where he's like, he's not afraid of it.
He feels at home, don't he?
Yeah, that's where you feel at home. That's where you feel like, this is where I can express myself, because obviously when you speak to him, when you see him, he's so shy. So shy, but when he gets on the pitch, that's where Emile Smith-Rowe comes to life, because that's where he's at his best. That's where he feels he's most confident.
You picked up on that point. Is that how you felt, that when you went out onto the pitch, that was you at home?
Yeah, without a doubt. And a lot of players are like that. You know, we like our feet to do the talking for us, you know, rather than the talking ourselves. But you know, as I say, I think for him, he's a natural player. You know, so I think about someone like a Gascoigne. You just throw a ball at them and let them go, and they just play. You know, and that's why he's done so well, being a young kid, not feeling the pressure of wearing a number 10. It's because he's a natural player who just wants to play. And when he plays, that's when he's at his best.
Got himself a chef in as well, hasn't he?
Yeah, but these are the things I think that, and it feeds down from someone like Cristiano Ronaldo.
Literally feeds down.
Yes, literally, because what these young guys are seeing is that the guys at the very top, what they're doing is that they're investing in themselves, in what they bring around themselves, whether it's the chef, the PT, the house, the stuff in the house, the pools, everything what they can afford to make themselves better, last longer. They're doing that, and you have to say this is the thing.
And they're doing it from earlier.
Yeah.
This was something that players would do towards the end of their career to try and prolong it. They start there.
When you've got them now doing, they finish the game and they do the ice baths, and they do the ice baths on a Sunday. They relax. They relax more. They're doing all the things that is gearing them to be the best that they can be once they get there on a Saturday. And it's what when Wenger came. Yeah. It was the early days of it. It's every single thing you're doing for your body is for you to perform at your very best on the Saturday. And I think that's now fed into the players, and players are doing it. They're doing it now.
Just on that, actually, I interviewed Christoph Adger from Brentford 2 weeks ago, and he said that exactly. He said, being a footballer now, a 24/7 job, because it's training games, but also on top of that, it's all of the work you have to do around it, and even not just nutrition and looking after yourself, but also the actual research in terms of like tactical, which you can imagine Arteta as well on top of as well, given how structured they are.
But the thing is that I remember when Wenger came and we had to do all the stuff we was doing with the nutrition and all the vitamins.
Due to win.
Yeah, all that sort of stuff. I remember because I shared rooms with Dennis, and like I said, I can't wait till we get back home so I can eat some food, some nice. And he said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Yeah, I just eat what my other stuff, the normal stuff." He says, "I eat this all the time. I do this all the time." He says, like, what we have for breakfast when we're with Wenger, what we have for lunch, and what we have for dinner, I do that at home as well. I was like that. I was like, "Do you?" He said, "Yes." And he was deadly serious.
Did you cry?
I was devastated because I hated the food because it was so bland. But then when I went home, I started to have to do the same things because I get it now. If you're going to do it, you have to. It's 24 hours, like you're saying.
What was the worst thing you actually had to give up when Wenger came in?
Well, we had to. Anything to do with sugar was gone. Wow. Anything. Tea. We couldn't have tea. You know, tea is something that you just have. It's just you just have it. Any sugar, no chocolate, no nothing. There's no sweet stuff.
Even tea without sugar in it?
No tea. You can only have water with Wenger, especially when we're in the match situation. And we had to walk with water all the time. He said, "You don't drink water when you're thirsty. You drink water continually." And it's something that you kind of get used to. But he was right. He was right. And it was tough for the first few months for people. But then you saw the run where Arsenal went on to win in '98. 10 games unbeaten. We were literally like robots. It was like we were so strong.
And it's all down to eating bland food.
Eating bland food. Eating bland food.
The way forward.
You know what I mean? No a black man with a food with no seasoning. It was like, what is going on here?
Winning adds the flavour.
Exactly.
And we're going to leave it on that one. That's a great line to leave it on. Winning adds the